My fiancé's daughter nearly got me arrested by pretending not to know me, and when I flipped out, she acted like I was the problem. Hi friends, welcome back to Story Nest. Subscribing goes a long way in supporting the channel and making sure you catch all the stories. I had been living a dream. 3 months ago, my girlfriend and I got engaged. We had been together for nearly 3 years, and things seemed to be falling into place. She had 2 kids from her previous relationship, a 15-year-old daughter named Riley and a 12-year-old son, Ethan. It wasn't the perfect family dynamic, but it worked. We were all on the same page, communicating well, co-parenting smoothly. That is, at least, until I started having more trouble with Riley. She had made it clear from the beginning that she wasn't interested in having another father figure in her life. She was close to her biological dad, and that was that. At first, I respected her space, but it was hard to ignore the tension between us. Ethan and we clicked right away, but Riley was a different story. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't seem to break through the walls she'd built around herself. It stung more than I cared to admit. I had hoped that by this point, we'd be able to have a normal, functional relationship, but I knew that was unlikely given how vocal she was about not seeing me as a parent. I accepted it, mostly. A few days ago, I was at work when my fiancé texted me. She had a work emergency and needed someone to pick up Riley from school. Normally, my fiancé took care of picking Riley up once a week for her chiropractic appointment, but this time, the schedule was thrown off. I was more than willing to help, so I agreed. But as it often happens with my fiancé, she forgot something important. She had promised to call the school and inform them that I'd be the one picking up Riley, but that slipped her mind. So I found myself at the school gates, waiting to be buzzed in, only to realize that I wasn't on the approved pickup list. I had hoped it wouldn't be an issue, but of course, it was. The front office didn't know anything about me picking up Riley, so I had to wait. And wait. I texted my fiancé, called her a couple of times, but nothing. Not a single response. A few minutes later, the tension escalated further. The school's resource officer, an actual cop, came outside. He was polite at first, but quickly turned firm when I explained the situation. He told me I wasn't authorized to be on school grounds. When I tried to explain my side, he made it clear that my presence wasn't welcome. If you don't leave, he said, I'll have to arrest you for trespassing. I was stunned. How had I ended up in this mess? I knew my fiancé had meant well, but this situation felt so unnecessary. My heart raced. I wasn't just annoyed, I was worried too. This officer didn't know me, didn't know what I was there for. He just saw a man standing outside a school without permission. I didn't want to cause trouble, but now I was being forced to leave empty-handed, without Riley, without answers. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, my fiancé called back. She apologized profusely. She'd been caught up at work, and in the chaos, she forgot to make that one simple call to the school. I could hear the guilt in her voice. She promised she'd take care of it and meet me at home. When we got home, things didn't settle like I'd hoped. Riley went straight to her room without so much as a glance in my direction, her mood as cold as ever. My fiancé and I sat down, and she wasted no time explaining what had happened at the school. Apparently, when Riley was asked about me by the office staff, she had told them she didn't know who I was. She went even further and claimed she'd never seen me before in her life. Riley had thought it would be funny to mess with the situation, a joke at my expense. The moment my fiancé said that, a knot twisted in my stomach. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. This wasn't just a harmless prank. It was reckless, dangerous even. What if someone took that seriously? What if the school had gotten involved in a way that could have made things worse? I couldn't shake the image of how the situation could have escalated. My fiancé tried to stay calm, explaining that she had already talked to Riley about the seriousness of the situation. She'd scolded her, telling her that it was dangerous to pull something like that. And then, she said, she was planning to talk to Riley's biological dad to figure out some kind of punishment for her actions. But hearing that didn't bring me the relief I thought it would. I just sat there, my mind spinning. My anger was bubbling under the surface. I had tried to keep it together, tried to understand, but this was too much. I raised my voice louder than I ever do. I wasn't screaming, but my frustration broke through. "Are you kidding me?" I said, trying to keep my cool. "This is not just some silly joke. Your daughter almost got me arrested today because she thought it would be funny." The words felt like they were being ripped from my chest, and I hated how angry I sounded. But I couldn't help it. The reality of the situation was sinking in, and it felt like it was all falling apart. "I'm sorry, but I can't just sit here and pretend like this isn't a big deal. You're just as responsible as she is. If you had called the school like you promised, I wouldn't have been in that position at all. Now, I look like some kind of predator because of this, and for what? A joke." My fiancée's face dropped, and she told me to calm down. But I couldn't. I wasn't going to calm down. Not over this. I was furious, not just at Riley, but at her. She had forgotten something so simple, and it had cost me dearly. "I can't just let this slide," I told her. This wasn't just some misunderstanding. This was serious. But she didn't seem to see it the same way. She tried to soothe me, told me that she and Riley's dad would handle it, that I should just let them work it out. That's when I realized I wasn't being heard. She wasn't seeing things from my side, and I felt like I was the one being asked to shoulder all the blame. I felt trapped in this moment, caught between my fiancé's calm and my own rising frustration. Every word she said felt like it was deflecting responsibility, like I was the one overreacting, the one making too big of a deal out of a situation that, in her mind, didn't deserve all this emotion. She kept telling me I should let her and Riley's dad deal with it, like it was their responsibility and not mine. But I couldn't shake it. I couldn't let go of the sinking feeling in my gut. The situation wasn't just about a prank or a harmless misunderstanding. It was about respect, boundaries, and trust. In that moment, I felt like I wasn't being taken seriously, like my feelings and concerns didn't matter. I could feel my heart pounding. The more I tried to explain how serious this was, the more she brushed it off, telling me that it was a mistake and I needed to let them fix it. But there was a part of me, an angry, disillusioned part, that couldn't let it go. I wanted her to acknowledge how badly this had shaken me, how her daughter's actions had almost led to my arrest, but all she seemed to care about was smoothing things over quickly. The urgency was gone for her. But for me, it was still burning. I wasn't just mad at Riley. I was mad at the whole situation, at the powerlessness I felt, at how little I seemed to matter in that moment. How could I be expected to just step back and let them handle it when I was the one who'd been put in that position? I took a breath, trying to steady myself. "You don't get it, do you?" I asked, my voice quieter now, but still firm. "This wasn't just about you forgetting to make a phone call. This was about trust. You didn't trust me enough to make sure things were in order. And now, I'm the one left looking like a criminal. I have no control over the situation, and I need you to understand that." She sat there, silent for a moment, her face softening. She seemed like she wanted to say something, but the words just weren't coming. Maybe she understood more than she had let on. Or maybe she was just worn out from the tension, not knowing what to do with it. But there was a thick silence between us, one that hadn't been there before. It felt like the gap between us had grown wider. It wasn't just about Riley anymore, it was about me feeling pushed to the sidelines in my own relationship. In her eyes, I was overreacting, but in mine, I was standing up for myself in a situation where no one else seemed to care about the impact it had on me. The silence hung heavy in the room as I sat there, my frustration simmering beneath the surface. I could tell she was processing everything, but it didn't feel like she fully understood the depth of what had happened. Her gaze shifted away from mine as if she was thinking about Riley's actions, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just a bystander in this whole mess. "I know you're upset," she said, her voice soft but not apologetic. "But Riley's a teenager. She does dumb things sometimes, and she'll learn from this. It's not the end of the world. She's not malicious. I get it's frustrating, but you need to let me and her dad take the lead here." Her words felt like a dismissal. They felt like she was telling me to back off, that I didn't need to be involved, that I didn't matter in this situation. And that stung more than anything. I wasn't asking for control, I was asking for acknowledgement, for her to understand how much this had affected me. I wasn't just some outsider in this family. I had been there for her, for the kids. I had done everything I could to help to build a life with her. And now it felt like all of that didn't matter. The anger that had been simmering finally reached its boiling point. I don't think you get it. It's not about Riley's dumb joke or her being a teenager. It's about me getting caught in a situation where I was treated like a criminal for no reason. That's not something I'm just going to forget. I stood up then, pacing the room, trying to burn off the energy that was bubbling over. I get that you want to protect her. I understand that she's your daughter, and you'll always put her first. But I'm not just some guy you can push aside when things go wrong. I have a right to be upset, to be hurt by what happened today. You're my fiancé, but you're treating me like I'm the outsider here. The words tumbled out faster than I could stop them. I didn't care anymore. I wasn't going to bottle this up and pretend like everything was fine. I've been trying to make this work for years, trying to be a part of your family, I said, voice shaking with emotion. But today, I felt like I was invisible. I felt like I wasn't even seen as a real part of your life. You expect me to just let things slide, but I can't. Not when I feel this small. She didn't respond right away, but I could see the conflict in her eyes. Maybe she was realizing how much she'd taken me for granted. Or maybe she was just exhausted from the whole situation. But in that moment, I didn't know if I could keep pushing forward. I wasn't asking for her to choose between me and Riley, but I needed her to realize that I had feelings too. That I wasn't just the guy in the background of their lives. I was supposed to be her partner, someone she could count on. And right now, it didn't feel like she saw me that way. The air in the room felt thick with tension. She sat there, her gaze flicking between me and the floor, as if she were searching for the right words, but they just weren't coming. I had never felt so distant from her before. It was like the love we shared had suddenly been overshadowed by the weight of a situation neither of us had been prepared for. I don't know what to say, she finally muttered, her voice quieter now. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't mean for you to feel like you don't matter. I shook my head, feeling a deep ache in my chest. It's not just about today. It's about how things have been going between us for a while now. You don't see it, but I do. I'm constantly being told to step back, to let you handle things, like I'm some kind of outsider in your life. I'm supposed to just go with the flow, but it's hard when I'm being pushed to the side every time something goes wrong. She reached out, her hand hovering in the air like she wanted to bridge the gap between us, but wasn't sure if I'd let her. I never meant to make you feel like you're not important. You are. I need you here. I want you here. It should have been comforting, hearing those words, but it didn't feel like enough. Not right now. I don't know if I can keep pretending that everything is fine when I feel like I'm constantly fighting to be seen. I'm trying, but I'm not sure you even understand what I'm going through. She sighed, the weight of it all settling in. I know I messed up. I should have called the school. I should have been more careful, and I should have been more aware of how this would affect you. I'm sorry for that. But I don't want this one mistake to destroy what we have. I looked at her, my anger starting to give way to exhaustion. I had never doubted our connection before, but now I wasn't so sure. I wasn't ready to throw it all away, but I needed more from her. I needed her to truly see me, not just as the guy who steps in when things are easy, but as her partner when things get tough. I just need you to hear me. To really hear me, I said quietly, my voice breaking slightly. I'm not asking for everything to be perfect. I just need to feel like I'm in this with you. Not on the outside. She nodded slowly, her expression softening. I hear you. I really do. And I'll do better. I promise. It wasn't an instant fix. There wasn't a magical moment where everything was suddenly perfect again. But for the first time in a while, I felt like she understood. I didn't know what the future held or how things would change with Riley. But I knew one thing for sure, I couldn't keep ignoring how I felt. And neither could she. As we sat there in silence, the weight of everything seemed to settle into something more manageable. We weren't done, far from it. But maybe, just maybe, we were starting to understand each other a little better. We're wrapping up today's story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed it. We really appreciate it.